Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the One Energy World and to creating value in the energy sector through future-ready leadership. I'm Praloshni Naidu, a science and technology expert from a large cap petrochemical and mining company. Taking into account the very volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous nature of business, economies, geopolitical landscapes that energy companies daily face in their license to operate, it is imperative that us, as energy leaders, become proactive by being able not only to deal with and navigate through current changes, but also by being able to excel in the long term by becoming future ready. So what is future readiness and how can we become future ready? Our speaker, Jay Weiser, is here to discuss future ready leadership. Jay is the chief catalyst and navigator of Jay Weiser Consulting. He's a recognized expert and thought leader in future-ready leadership and strategy execution management. For over 30 years, he has advised C-level executives and teams across multiple industries and functions. So welcome, Jay, and over to you.
Thank you, Praloshni. The energy sector is not just evolving. It's being continuously redefined in real time. Energy executives face unprecedented technological, policy, and sustainability changes and challenges. Climate mandates, geopolitical tensions, supply shocks, and technology advances, including AI, are rewriting the rules of the game. Leaders are expected to make high-stake decisions under extreme pressure. In this volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world, leadership agility is your edge. It's about making informed decisions to avoid, prevent, prepare for, manage, or accept risks, and seize opportunities. Future-ready leadership isn't about predicting the future. It's about being prepared, adaptive, and agile enough to lead through it. This type of leadership is needed to turn complexity into clarity, and clarity into action. In an unpredictable world, future readiness isn't a buzzword. It is your most important strategic advantage. We are at a crossroads. This sector is being redefined by global disruption. To stay relevant, leaders must not just evolve, they must transform. We face surging demand in emerging markets, energy security and supply reliability issues, climate regulations and policy mandates, AI and digital transformation. If VUCA had a capital, it would be energy. It's VUCA on steroids. The complexity stems not only from individual risks, but also from their interconnections and interdependencies. Just look at the World Economic Forum risk map on the right-hand side of the slide to see this, or visit the World Economic Forum to see how all these risk maps tie together. Besides food and health, no sector is more vital to global stability, equity, and progress than energy. What does it take to lead in this landscape? How do we stay ahead of the curve instead of behind it? Well, you can't future-proof your organization, but you can become future-ready. Let's look at the shifts that are required to do this. So let's look at the reaction to disruption that leaders have. If they're unready, they're going to be unaware, surprised, and caught off guard. However, if they're ready, they're likely to be more aware, prepared, and ready to take action. If we think about how leaders respond to disruption, if you're unready, you tend to be reactive. You have a knee-jerk reaction. You're thinking only about the short term. But if you're ready, you're going to be adaptive. You're going to be able to balance those short-term pressures with long-term aspirations. And you're going to be looking forward. When you think about leadership in disruptive times, if you're not ready, leaders tend to be hesitant. Their actions are disjointed. They're going in different directions. But if they're ready, they're confident, they're agile, and their actions are aligned. This is no time to roll the dice, because hope is not a strategy. The question is not whether change is coming, but whether you are ready. And that brings us to how we become future ready. How do we lead forward with clarity and confidence? Well, competing forward requires new capabilities. Existing leadership capabilities and practices have proven insufficient. That's why I developed the 5 leadership superpowers. The superpowers address 5 universal trends. They ask not for either or thinking, but both and thinking. They don't replace core leadership skills. They elevate them. The 5 leadership superpowers are for senior leaders, leadership teams, and boards of directors, symbolized by the table in the middle. The first superpower is being a present futurist. Present futurists understand today while anticipating and preparing for tomorrow. Experienced learners, they leverage experience when it's relevant while embracing and fostering continuous learning. The prepared risk taker, they take bold, smart, calculated risks and increase their risk awareness while pragmatically enhancing preparedness. The strategic executor, they integrate strategy and execution because one without the other is irrelevant. They consider long-term implications before making short-term decisions. That is to ensure they don't cut off their noses to spite their faces. The accountable collaborator, they build trust, they collaborate across boundaries, and they share accountability for outcomes. When the 5 are combined, these unlock exponential impact. It's about preparing for tomorrow, today. Now let's explore each of the superpowers through some real-world examples. Present futurists, they understand the present. They scan for signals. They interpret patterns, and they integrate these insights to enable better informed decision-making and decisive action. Ørsted, based in Denmark and formerly known as Danish Oil and Natural Gas. In 2006, 85% of their energy production was derived from fossil fuels and only 15% from renewables. They anticipated the shift to decarbonization early, based on seeing regulatory trends and feeling public pressure. They set a goal to reverse their fossil fuels to renewables ratio by 2050. Ørsted didn't wait until policies were finalized. They acted when signals became clear. Today, Ørsted is one of the largest renewable energy companies in the world, and they're a global leader in offshore wind farms, which represent 75% of its revenues. Other renewables, energy storage like batteries, and carbon capture account for the remainder of their revenue. Notably, in 2024, 97% of its power generated came from renewables, exceeding their goal in doing it decades earlier. So from anticipating the future, we're going to move to the experienced learner. Experienced learners leverage experience, yet they acknowledge it is often insufficient in today's environment. They practice, foster, and actively support continuous learning. They recognize this is necessary, not discretionary. They're curious, and they ask and invite questions. They foster debate in a safe environment and encourage a diversity of views because they know it eliminates and minimizes blind spots. Air's Energy, based in Nigeria, exemplifies this mindset. They have built a culture rooted in innovation and accountability. They encourage employees to question norms, propose new solutions, and take ownership of results. Their culture is rooted in continuous improvement because they're adapting quickly in pursuit of value and operational excellence. And it's a culture of inclusion, welcoming different backgrounds, viewpoints, and cultures to drive better outcomes. Harris, as a result, has turned challenges into accelerants for growth and better performance. Alvin Toffler said it best. The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read or write, but those who cannot unlearn. Alvin Toffler said it best. The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read or write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. Unlearn is the toughest challenge of them all because it means letting go of things that made us successful in the past, but no longer work. Now let's talk about bold leadership under uncertainty. The prepared risk taker, they embrace uncertainty. They take bold, smart, calculated risks. They improve their risk awareness. They enhance preparedness pragmatically. Fortescue, based in Australia, is a leading green tech, energy, and metal mining company. Despite being one of their country's largest greenhouse gas emitters, they set a net zero goal for their iron ore operations in Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions by 2030, earlier than their peers in mining and energy. They committed $6.2 billion to decarbonize operations and develop green hydrogen projects. Now they recognize the uncertainty of regulatory frameworks and mandates, but they saw the opportunity to lead. They exemplify being a prepared risk taker, taking bold, calculated actions to lead in a high-risk, high-opportunity sector, green hydrogen, while being risk-aware and assuming a posture of preparedness. Beyond this, they're acquiring autonomous battery-powered trucks to reduce emissions in their mining, and they're developing zero-emission fuels like green ammonia to help shipping businesses. Fortescue acted on clear signals, not full certainty. They took a first mover position, accepting short-term risk to gain long-term positioning. They've embedded risk awareness across their operations and in their culture. Everyone is collectively responsible for risk management. This is intelligent risk-taking, aligned with a bold vision with deep preparation. And to turn strategy into reality, we need execution discipline. So let's move on to the strategic executor. Now, strategic executors translate strategy into operational terms. They maintain a focus on strategy while addressing operational issues. They consider long-term implications before making short-term decisions. And they adaptively manage strategy execution, knowing that conditions in the environment are changing. Ørsted, a South African state-owned energy company that generates, transmits, distributes, purchases, and sells electricity throughout the country, provides close to 90% of South Africa's power. Facing severe operational and reputational challenges, their mandate was to turn around their existing businesses, which were plagued by power load shedding, blackouts, and grid reliability issues due to aging infrastructure, financial struggles, operational inefficiencies, as well as theft, corruption, and fraud. They needed to turn around the business while advancing and making progress towards their sustainability goals. Under new leadership, they reorganized into 3 businesses: generation, transmission, and distribution, each with their own P&L. This allowed for better strategic clarity and strategy execution. They tackled inefficiencies and corruptions head-on in each of their businesses. They've reduced power grid load shedding and blackouts by 6% year over year and improved national grid reliability. Eskom focused on realistic execution. They balance addressing short-term needs while remaining focused on long-term energy transition goals. This is strategy in action, added, adapted to a complex context. The accountable collaborator. An accountable collaborator fosters collaboration across the organization, their ecosystem, and even across sectors. They form fluid, fit-for-purpose teams. And the teams share accountability for achieving shared objectives and desired outcomes. I want to share 2 examples. The Northern Lights carbon capture and storage project is a powerful example of the accountable collaborator superpower in action. Shell, Equinor, and Total Energy joined forces with government support from Norway to build one of the world's first scalable carbon capture and storage value chains. Northern Lights demonstrates that shared accountability across companies and sectors in pursuit of reducing industrial emissions. They demonstrate transparent collaboration where each partner brings complementary strengths. And they demonstrate systemic impact through alignment across public, private, and regulatory actors. They knew that energy transition can't be led alone. The other example is Duke Energy. They're driving transformational change through internal collaboration centered on decarbonization, digital grid modernization, and employee accountability. They've established cross-functional alignment around their net zero goals, and they backed it with clear internal accountability structures. They've aligned operations, finance, regulatory, and HR teams through enterprise-wide scorecards and incentives. They've created a culture of shared accountability. Employee performance and development plans are tied to strategic priorities, not just technical KPIs. Senior leaders emphasize and support psychological safety. They're encouraging teams to raise issues early and engage in collaborative problem solving. Duke Energy's internal collaboration model has helped it stay on track with infrastructure modernization and clean energy commitments. And they've done this while maintaining employee engagement, regulatory credibility, and execution discipline. Collaboration is core to future-ready leadership. Now, you might be wondering, what happens when you bring all 5 superpowers together? Well, when you bring all 5 superpowers and they're activated together, the impact is exponential, and that is the power of 5. Why? Each superpower supports and reinforces the other. For example, present futurists tune out the noise and listen and look for signals. Strategic executors translate those signals into action. Together, they lead with clarity, even in chaos. NextEra Energy provides an example of the 5 leadership superpowers in play. As a present futurist, their foresight has led to long-term investments in renewables and battery storage. As experienced learners, they fostered innovation and iterative learning for digital grid solutions. They knew they were going to make mistakes. They knew there was going to be failure, but as experienced learners, that was okay. As a prepared risk taker, they made bold investments in green hydrogen and large-scale renewables ahead of market certainty. As strategic executors, they've operationalized their vision while delivering consistent returns. And as accountable collaborators, they've partnered with regulators and communities to modernize and strengthen energy infrastructure. This is what future readiness in action looks like. Who benefits? When you become and stay future ready with the superpowers, all stakeholders. So let's see how. Now, the superpowers together drive increased stakeholder value sustainably. Let's take NextEra as an example. Their foresight has delivered innovative, clean energy solutions for customers. Their investment in upskilling and innovation has created a thriving culture for employees. Their collaborative partnerships have made them a reliable ally for ecosystem partners. And they've delivered cleaner, more resilient energy systems that benefit society. And as a result, they've continued to return strong performance to their shareholders while ensuring that they stay future ready. That's the increased stakeholder value that's possible when leaders activate the 5 leadership superpowers. Future readiness is about making better decisions that serve your stakeholders and drive better outcomes. We don't have to imagine what this looks like. It's already happening through the examples that I've shared. So you're probably wondering, how do you begin your future ready journey? First, I think it's important to acknowledge that you cannot outsource future readiness to contractors or consultants. The executive team and board are accountable and responsible for becoming future ready. They must actively engage and lead by example. It's about building sustainable capabilities from the inside out over time. As long as there are disruptions, change, and uncertainty, this is an essential journey if you want to effectively navigate and thrive in the future. However, you don't have to make this journey alone. It's helpful to have an experienced guide and partner by your side. So where do you start? I think first, you need to know where you are. Take the free Are You a Future Ready Leadership assessment for individuals. You can access this at https://future-ready.scoreapp.com is shown on the slide. Second, assess your leadership team and board. It's important to understand where you are as an organization, as a leadership team. To discuss our assessment options and support options, click Book an Appointment on my LinkedIn profile. Third, it's important to get educated. One way is to enroll in my self-paced online course, Become a Future Ready Leader with the 5 Leadership Superpowers. And you can find the course on the One Business World homepage. Lastly, take the opportunity to schedule a complimentary 30-minute future readiness planning session to get started. Don't delay. It's your future that's at stake. Now I want to turn back to Pralashna, who's well-versed in this sector, and especially in board governance, for comments and questions.
That was a powerful presentation connecting leadership capabilities directly to the complex realities that we face in the energy sector. You've shown how foresight, learning, strategic risks, execution, and collaboration are not just leadership buzzwords, but necessities for thriving in this landscape. So let's dig a little deeper into how energy leaders can put these principles into practice. The first question I have is, how can senior leadership teams and boards effectively adopt and implement the 5 leadership superpowers to become future ready in a timely fashion?
So the first step is understanding where you are. How future ready are you? What are you currently doing that you can leverage, and what needs to change? Taking the Are You a Future Ready Leader assessment is an easy, risk-free first step. It's free, and it takes only 5 minutes to complete, and you get your feedback immediately. More importantly, conducting a leadership team assessment is a powerful move. It helps you understand where you are as a leadership team and helps you build a case for transformation that you can use to engage others. Both are great places to start. Now, with this information from the assessment, you can prioritize where your gaps are and build a roadmap to future readiness, including immediate next steps. My last piece of advice on this is do something, because doing nothing is riskier than you can imagine.
Thank you, Jay. You focused a lot on senior leadership teams and non-executive board teams. What about the rest of the organization? Shouldn't this apply to them as well?
Yes, ultimately it should. However, it's imperative that senior leadership and the board buy in, actively engage, and take ownership of this effort. Once that's securely in place, it can then be rolled out to successive levels in the organization.
Great. As a board director, I'm particularly interested in the opportunities, challenges, risks posed by technology, digital transformation, and AI. How can the leadership superpowers help executive teams and board capitalize on and address this?
So, first, from a personal perspective, if you aren't exploring and experimenting with AI on your own, you don't risk falling behind. You are falling behind. Now, back to your question. I want to discuss a few opportunities and risks in this area first, and then I'll talk about how the superpowers help leadership teams and boards address and capitalize on these. So let's talk about opportunities first. AI and digital tools are great decarbonization enablers. They help optimize energy use, accelerate predictive maintenance, and reduce carbon footprints. Second, when we look at operational efficiency, automation and real-time data analytics can help increase reliability, reduce downtime, and cut costs. On the challenges and risk side, cybersecurity remains a very large threat. And as we increase data and digital integration, we expand the attack surface for critical infrastructure. So that's something we need to pay attention to. The other challenge is digital inequality. Not all regions or business units can adopt the technology at the same pace. This can lead to internal fragmentation. There's also the issue of AI bias and black box decisions. Poor transparency and ethical concerns can erode trust in automated and AI assisted decision making. So now let's talk about how the superpowers can help. Now, as a board member, being a present futurist, you're going to be more active in scanning the horizon for emerging tech, risks, and opportunities. And you're going to think about ways to integrate thoughtfully AI into your longer term vision. As an experienced learner, board members should themselves have a culture of continuous learning where digital fluency and experimentation are encouraged. As prepared risk takers, board members need to ensure that they're balancing tech adoption with clear risk mitigation and preparedness strategies around cyber, data ethics, and regulations. As strategic executors, they need to translate their digital ambitions into sequenced, measurable implementation plans with relevant KPIs and to ensure accountability. And as accountable collaborators, the board needs to ensure that their organization has good, strong cross-functional collaboration between IT, ops, HR, legal, and external partners as they embark in any form of technology integration. These are just examples. Those watching should consider how they can use the superpowers in their organizations to address these issues.
Thanks for that very practical explanation and example, Jay. But how can AI help board directors and company executives become more effective?
So I think the first thing is getting educated, exploring, and experimenting with AI. Because when they do that, they're going to be better able to engage and ask questions on the topic versus not knowing what it is. I think board members can also use it personally to make better use of their time and amplify their impact. One way to do this is using AI to help research an issue and to really dig into it so you can come to the meeting prepared and know that you're ready to ask critical questions that are important to that issue. You can use it to research industry. You can use it to monitor trends and find out what are the emerging risks in the industry that maybe others are thinking about, but you haven't. And you can use AI to summarize and highlight key information in reports. So, if you have a 50-page article that might be part of your board package, you can feed it into AI and summarize it and then see where you have to dig in and read more of the article to get the detail you need.
Great. Well, thanks very much, Jay, for that practical advice. Going on to another really burning issue that's facing the energy sector, the environmental, social, and governance revolution has become embedded in every energy executive team and board strategy. Many stock exchanges and regulatory authorities require energy companies to report on the ESGS metrics. Transitioning away from fossil fuels to green fuel sources now remains a global imperative. How can energy companies use the leadership superpowers to effectively reach their sustainability goals?
So you can approach this in a variety of ways. Here's one example. As a present futurist, you can be exploring regulatory reporting trends. They vary by country. There are international standards, such as the International Financial Reporting Standards on Sustainability, and improving your global awareness. As an experienced learner, it's important to practice continuous learning. Take courses, attend relevant industry and issue-specific events. If we're talking about sustainability, going to the COP conferences, the World Economic Forum, forums like Davos, or other sustainability conferences ensures that you're up to speed and ready to partake in these discussions. As a prepared risk taker, board members and the executive team can be exploring emerging opportunities and innovations. It might be within your own company. It might be visiting other companies that are doing some of these things so that you can build comfort with taking smart risks, making small bets, experimenting, running pilots, and prototyping. As a strategic executor, board members should be asking questions to ensure that the sustainability strategy is operationalized, and they should be tracking whether or not benefits are being realized as they were promised. And the same holds for the executive team. As an accountable collaborator, strategy and execution are team sports. Act accordingly. Encourage and support collaboration on your leadership team and on your board. Ensure there's alignment around shared goals, and make sure that teams are enabled and empowered to do their work.
Great. Thank you, Jay, for that. The gender diversity and inclusion remain pressing topics globally for most businesses, especially in the EU, where specific targets for women on all listed companies have been set, with 40% ratio for non-executive women and 33% target for women on management boards. This is particularly an issue for the energy sector, which has been male-dominated for quite a long time. How can the leadership superpowers help companies in this regard?
So, as a present futurist, it's important to recognize trends, where these regulations are going, changing workforce demographics, different generations in the workforce, which value and demand the same opportunities, no matter where they are. Present futurists use foresight to identify the type of talent that's needed and can be leveraged to achieve their gender diversity and inclusion goals. As experienced learners, companies at the forefront of these efforts are building critical capabilities and creating development opportunities for to ensure and support the pursuit of these diversity goals and inclusion goals. This includes learning how to become more self-aware, how to identify and counter biases, and how to be more emotionally intelligent, which helps when difficult conversations have to occur. Addressing these issues increases value to employees and society as a whole. A diverse, future-ready workforce can create a lasting advantage for your company. The other superpowers are just as critical. As a prepared risk taker, you can experiment and pilot different approaches to see what works before implementing these at scale. As a strategic executor, having a strategy and a plan around how you're going to do this. But it doesn't matter unless it's actionable and implemented, and the board should be following that. And as an accountable collaborator, as you think about doing this, having a culture of collaboration based on trust and respect for individuals is essential. So, Pralashni, do you have any closing comments or other questions?
Yes, thank you, Jay. Thank you for the excellent explanation of how the 5 leadership superpowers can be practically used in the energy sector. I particularly liked your business case examples from the major leading energy companies. From a board governance perspective, I see these leadership superpowers as essential skills for both the executive leadership team and the non-executive leadership teams. Both board chairs and CEOs can incorporate elements of these superpowers in their board bill plans, committee plans, and in their performance discussions with their key team members. I see the present futurist, the prepared risk taker, and the experienced learner are key leadership superpowers for these leadership teams to develop. The present futurist is essential to all functions of the board, but I see the superpower solely contributing to the audit and risk management committees of the board. The present futurist has the foresight to scan the risk and integrate emerging risk challenges in the current business strategy by developing preventative measures and crisis management plans to work with to mitigate these risks. This role contributes both to the license to operate in the short term and longer term business strategy and ensures competitive advantage of energy companies across global landscapes. Then the prepared risk taker is another leadership superpower that all board members across all functions can develop. This leadership skill enables board members to take calculated risks, adopt new risks with clear risk mitigation strategies. This leadership superpower fosters a culture of forward thinking and adaptability. And then the experienced learner is another critical leadership superpower that both board chair and CEO can use. This superpower creates and nurtures a culture of continuous learning, enhancing the growth of all board members. It allows both the board team and the executive leadership teams to become adaptive by staying attuned to market trends, regulatory environments, and encouraging experimentation, learning from failures, and being open to new ideas and perspective. This role is essential to the growth of board members supporting continuous improvement goals. And back to you, Jay.
Thank you, Pralashni, for taking on these hosting responsibilities, for asking some very pertinent questions, and lastly, for bringing the board of directors' perspective up front. Now, at the outset of today's presentation, I had 3 objectives. I wanted to make sure I was effectively conveying the urgency and importance of future readiness and future ready leadership. I wanted to share the 5 leadership superpowers using real company examples to illustrate and demonstrate the value that comes when each of these superpowers is activated, and more importantly, when they're activated together. I wanted to catalyze and mobilize you in the audience to take action, to start or accelerate your future readiness journey. And I wanted to make sure that I provided pragmatic and actionable steps that leaders can take starting tomorrow or next week. The choice for me in the organizations discussed is and was quite clear about future readiness and how they chose to act. Now it's time for you to decide and act. No more excuses or claims that you're too busy. The leaders in these examples made it a priority, and so should you. Waiting or doing nothing are truly bad options. Decisions have consequences. Their decisions led to success. What will yours lead to? Thank you.